The wilds of Zangarmarsh are an alien land in an alien world, a low valley and outland once covered in water. With the breaking of Draenor, the Zangar Sea has deteriorated into a marshy region of gigantic mushrooms and bioluminescent lights that pierce through the mist. Recently, the Naga and their servants have overrun this zone with their water-hoarding machines, siphoning away the little remaining moisture into the tunnels of Coilfang Reservoir. Today, I want to take a closer look at a few of the beings that call this marsh home. 3 unique traitors who have abandoned their purpose and now find themselves here in the depths. Even for those of you who are fans of the Burning Crusade, I guarantee you'll learn something new today. And with all that being said, let's get right into it. The first wing of Coilfang Reservoir is known as the Slave Pens, a grim grotto where the subterranean pumps of the Naga continue to function and their unwilling servants are held until they are needed. The largest faction of slaves here are the Broken, Draenei who have devolved into weaker forms following Draenor's destruction. Though many of the tribes found refuge in the drying Zangarmarsh, the more recent invasion of the Naga prompted these nomads to either escape or be rounded up to serve Lady Vosh. This is where our first traitor, Menu the Betrayer, comes into the picture. During this period of subjugation, Menu, shaman of the Waste Walker tribe, devised a dark scheme to retain his own power at the cost of his kin. Guiding his village toward Nagrand under the promise of safety, Menu led his people directly into the fins of the Naga, delivering them to the harsh confines of the slave pens. Menu, however, was granted the favor of the Naga, serving as the chief slave driver for the villagers in the cave. It is unknown if his title is known to both his former companions and new overlords, but perhaps in a twisted badge of honor, the Naga have taken to calling him the Betrayer as well for his dark deeds. His evil does not stop here, however, as Menu also has a chance of dropping a certain item on heroic mode, ironically called the Traitor's Noose. This item hints that he may also be responsible for executing slaves who riot or attempt to flee, a dark fate for one who was once such a respected member of the Waste Walkers. When adventurers enter the slave pens to liberate them, it seems Menu achieves a rare moment of clarity in his final moments, despite swearing moments earlier to keep his pledge to the Naga.
The work must continue. You should not have come. I deserve this.
Menu is a solid villain for being the first boss in a dungeon, a fallen shaman who now wields his powers to jail his fellow Broken. By eliminating him, hopefully at least some of the survivors will be able to rebuild their lives at the surface. Before we continue, I want to acknowledge and thank Eggfet for contributing to this section of the video and pointing out several of these cool details. Our second chapter today takes us deeper inside Coilfang Reservoir, to the wild passages of the Underbog, where the Naga have isolated some of the most powerful flora and fauna of Zangarmarsh for their own schemes. The Naga here are assisted by more Broken, those of the Merkblood tribe who have forsaken their Draenei roots entirely. These exiles seem much less resistant in their service to the Naga and have committed many atrocities in their name, led by our second traitor, the fearsome swamp lord Musalek. Our first task here is to dismantle a common theory or misconception about this boss, which implies he is an exile from his own tribe, a lord of nothing more than the lonely wilderness. The only source of supposed evidence for this is that Musalek has taken to wandering the deep reaches of Underbog by himself, away from the rest of the Merkblood. However, quest text elsewhere in Outland disproves this idea and also gives us some background into his character.
Merkblood are capturing and torturing the spirits of air. Merkblood are my kin, a tribe of the Broken who serve the vile Musalek, beast lord of Coilfang. These invasion plans were written by someone I once knew, Ortord of Merkblood, once a noble Broken, versed in the way of the elements, now a muck-addled yes-man of Musalek the Boglord.
Both of these quotes indicate that the Swamp Lord is, indeed, supervising the Merkblood despite his isolation, which leads us to a more compelling reason as to why he can be found in the back tunnels of the dungeon: his prowess as a hunter. Swamp Lord is a cool title, sure, but the one given by Morg actually is a bit more telling: Beast Lord. similar to the more familiar Beastmaster title. In WoW, a Beastmaster is a powerful hunter who can tame multiple animals at once, similar to someone like Rexxar on Azeroth. If Musalek is indeed one of these phenoms, it could explain why he's camping out here in the wildlife of the Underbog, and the Naga could be using his talents to control the creatures here. Gazan and the Black Stalker, two other bosses in the dungeon, could also be successful projects of his. Most curious of all are further similarities to Rexxar. Musalek has virtually the same exact outfit and even has unused orc voice lines in his game file, which perhaps reveals he is actually a copy of Rexxar that was repurposed here as a key player in the dungeon, fulfilling a very similar role to other Beastmasters. Apart from taming creatures for the Naga, there is a darker, secret layer of history to this character: druid hunting. The Cenarian Circle has been a major thorn to the Coilfang project in Zangarmarsh, and I believe Musalek has been tasked with stopping them one by one. The most obvious example is Windcaller Claw, a druid who entered the dungeon in his beast form, only to be enslaved by the Swamp Lord as his newest minion. Elsewhere in the tunnels, other druids have been slain, captured, or are in hiding, and it's very likely he's had other encounters too. We don't know if he's responsible for these other cases, but he would be the perfect asset for these missions, being able to tame and track wildlife, use the native fauna to his advantage, and bend the minds of druids in their shapeshifted forms, if he keeps them around that long. Taking a look at his melee weapon, Bear Claws, it would appear as though Musalek has kept trophies of his previous catches, another clue as to his twisted nature. The final angle worth exploring are some of his more chilling voice lines.
I will end this quickly. Akala pekekta. Crypta. Well done.
His final quote, in contrast to Menu earlier, is not filled with remorse, and he isn't afraid of death. Instead, he congratulates adventurers, further supporting the idea that his sanity has slipped. Musalek is a mastermind hidden in plain sight, the revered leader of the Merkblood who prefers roaming the passages of Underbog, plotting his next move, or stalking his next prey. Our final traitor today involves some amazing environmental storytelling, and I want to thank Celis in my comments for asking me to investigate this. In the final wing of Coilfang Reservoir, the menacing Serpent Shrine Cavern, some of the architecture here just doesn't line up. While most of the raid is filled with the typical Naga machinery and naturally eroded tunnels and caves, a portion of the instance takes you into these strange ruins that are being excavated, decorated with imagery of eyes and tentacles. For a little while, I thought I was going to have another Old God of Outland theory on my hands, but I actually found a different, perfect explanation for this ruin. Many Burning Crusade players may be familiar with the Altruist quest line in Nagrand, and well, just listen to this. The demon Zelith, a legion defector, was once worshipped as a god by primitive swamp creatures in Zangarmarsh. When Draenor was nearly destroyed, he retreated into a slumber deep beneath Marshlight Lake. Slay him, and prove you're an enemy to all demons. We never explicitly hear or see anything else related to Zelith or his influence in Zangarmarsh again, but these ruins and their decoration inside the cavern are very compelling clues to me that long ago, the Observer was a deity to ancient marsh creatures. Even the central area where the lurker below now resides is surrounded by these fragments of rock that could have once been a shrine of worship, as they don't really seem to line up with the newer Naga developments. It's crazy to believe a one-off quest NPC could have influenced a chunk of such a major raid, but I think this explanation is fairly reasonable. 3 traitors, 3 hidden stories, and I hope you learned something new about this part of Outland. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, may the Force be with you.